From the beginning, we have been told by society that failing at things is not a good thing. So we go as far as changing scores in our report cards so that we can look good in front of our friends. And even we tell lies to our parents, but we somewhere know that we'll be caught sometime, but we still do all of this just with the hope that what if we just escape this and we will look great in front of our peers, in front of our family members as well. This systematic thinking continues even into adulthood when we start working. For people in corporate, in jobs, I have seen people going mad just scoring 4 on 5 in their performance review. A lot of this overlaps when we post even our own content. So we want to put filters, we want to look great, we have gone to this holiday, and we talk about all the highlights of life that we want to share with the world, that how great we are. It's true with you, it's true with me, it's true with a lot of us and maybe all of us. But this ingrained idea of perfection is probably slowly changing, because slowly we're realizing that imperfection is also a great thing because it makes us look vulnerable. It makes us feel that I am there. It makes us feel that it's okay to fail on certain things. In today's podcast, I'm going to be talking about 3 brands that have done this so well that there are so many lessons for us as marketers, creators, and founders that in our own initiatives, we want to really use some part of them. So keep in mind this question as we continue along in this podcast is, what is perfection to you and what is imperfection? Now, the first one I want to talk about is a collaboration between 2 very different brands, KFC and Crocs. Yes, you heard me right. Because this collaboration, when I learned it first time, I was absolutely astonished. I said it is doomed for failure. And this is what everyone said who learned about this collaboration. And if you're hearing this, then hear me further out, because these 2 brands came together in February 2020 with 2 limited edition cakes. The first one was for a non-commercial use, which was used at a fashion show where models were seen wearing this in red and white stripes of KFC, and was 4.5 inches high in heel as well. Now, the second one for commercial use was launched in the spring of the same year. And in only 30 minutes of the launch, all the clogs were sold out. These classic clogs, the ones for commercial use, had chicken drumsticks of KFC at the front of it. Now, obviously, it's not the real drumstick, but these are all those artificial charms that you use on these clogs. And people were wearing it with fashion. They were priced at $59.99, whereas a classic Crocs clog is usually sold for $44.99, and it makes sense because limited edition needs to show that in the pricing as well. But if you go to StockX today, they are being sold for over $800, as high as $900 for certain sizes as well. If you go on the website of this collaboration, it says at the center, sold out. Now, why has this worked so well? The key ingredient to all of this is weirdness. So in this collaboration, the vulnerability here was that it can go disastrous. And honestly, any marketer or anyone who's logical enough will say that this will never work, but it did work. So the first takeaway from this discussion of a collaboration like this is that being vulnerable helps you at times. Not all the times, but if you're genuine with your thought process, it can work miraculously. Now, in this case, Crocs was sort of dying in its own image of being a daddy's brand. So with this collaboration, this avant-garde collaboration, you see Crocs thinking is to come out from that image and be more into the fashion trends and be bold. Whereas KFC on the other side has been losing its charm as well, because the fast food QSR market is kind of saturated. So how to bring newness in the discussion? Why not do this weird collaboration with Crocs, where even the Crocs was carrying the smell of the KFC chicken? How weird it was. The second one I want to talk about is Burger King. So around the same time in February 2020, Burger King came out with a commercial where they were showing their iconic Whopper sandwich decomposing over a period of 34 to 35 days. But the question for us here is why a brand will show its hero product getting rot. But here is the thinking behind. Burger King wanted to show the audience that its products do not have preservatives. Because if you see in today's times, a lot of discussions around these fast food joints is that they don't use real ingredients, natural products, and so on. So to answer this, they took this courage and came out with this commercial. In fact, the tagline of this commercial was itself the beauty of no artificial preservatives. Now, a lot of brands will not take this courage to do it because you might fail in front of the audience. Consumers may stop coming at your stores, but you have to be vulnerable at times, and this is what Burger King did. And here are some results. This initiative captured 8.4 billion organic impressions for Burger King. It uplifted their sales by 14%, and the positive sentiment, it was 88%. It's good to be imperfect because this transparency and authenticity is something that resonates with consumers of today's times. We are done with so much of perfection in front of our screens, in front of our social media, that maybe this uniqueness, this weirdness in yet another iconic brand trying to be real in front of people worked so miraculously well. The third example is Netflix. Now, I know you may think that the previous example was Burger King and prior to that KFC, so Netflix also doesn't make sense, but Crocs doesn't make sense in the midst of this discussion as well. So let's put it, this whole podcast today is all about weirdness. Let me elaborate on what I'm trying to say. In November 2022, Netflix came out with a new show called Wednesday. I'm sure you would have watched it as well, but when they came out with this first season, they had 8 episodes. Now, my connection with Wednesday goes as far as the connection it has with the Addams Family franchise because it is an adapted version of it. Now, in the 4th episode of this first season, the protagonist, Jenna Ortega, whose name in this particular show is Wednesday Friday Addams, is shown doing some weird dance during a prom evening. Now, this weird dance became so popular and viral on social that, hear me out, Jenna was not taught this dance by any choreographer. She did it all by herself, and I think this was the recommendation by the show's makers as well. This became so viralistic that for Netflix itself, within 3 weeks of the show, it had over 1 billion viewing hours. On social, user-generated content had over 20 billion views. The song Goo Goo Muck, the one Jenna was performing on, had 9500% jump on Spotify. So what does this all tell? That weirdness at times resonates with your consumers. Now, you don't have to be Michael Jackson to resonate with your viewers. You can be like Jenna, doing some natural steps in this gothic atmosphere of Wednesday and still connect with consumers, because today's consumers want opportunities. They want to reflect themselves out, and to be a Jackson requires a lot of practice, while you can be Jenna at any point of the day. So people want to talk about it on socials, want to talk about amongst their friend circles, not about just the failures, but about this weirdness as well. So you see, all of these brands have done so well, and their results continue to outperform them every single day. And why? Because they have all been weird, they have all been imperfect, but they have all been transparent and true. This is what connects with today's consumers. And I'm sure the word vulnerable you would have heard from me so many times, and one more time I'm saying it because I wanted to come down to this aspect of social psychology, which is the vulnerability loop. Now, this was introduced by Jeff Polzer, a professor at Harvard University, and then it was popularized by Daniel Coyle in his book, The Culture Code. Now, what vulnerability loop says? It says that when two people have discussions with each other, let's say person A and person B, when person A opens up in front of person B with some imperfections, some failures, person B's reaction normally is empathizing with person A and saying that, okay, hey, I've also got some failures and misses in life. We actually connect with each other and we are friends. This is what vulnerability loop does. And in marketing, you can see it works tremendously well. So when you're thinking of your next initiative, when you're planning your next campaign, think about how weird you can be. Now, a clever way to do this is being natural. And a not so clever way to do this is to plan for all these imperfections in the hope that it will connect with your audience. Just in the same hope that your parents will not catch you with the changes that you have done in the report card. You will be caught. And today's audience is smart enough to identify the brand which is authentic and not so authentic. I hope today's podcast was valuable to you and you will look at weirdness and failure in a different light from today onwards. Because it's good to be imperfect, it's good to be weird, and it's good to fail in a lot of things. because that makes us human. The whole intent of the marketing guy is to make every marketer be more robust, every creator be a little more magical in their thinking, and hopefully we will create some difference with all the initiatives that we will do. And if you do turn out to use any of the discussions that we have had, either in this episode or the previous one, do share with me, because I would love to talk about it, if you allow me, with the people who are listening us. You have been listening to The Marketing Guy. My name is Rachit Kapoor. Until I see you next time, take very good care of yourself.